Yes, people, and welcome back to Punches and Pundits. Before we start, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on any sort of audio platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure to download the episode and follow our socials at Punches and Pundits, where we'll post all the clips from this episode on there. Now, we're gonna preview UFC 310 that will be happening next weekend, but before we start, we had a nice event last week, and it was
Cow.
during the day for us
Perfect timing.
Europeans. Perfect.
Finally, we get a card where we don't have to stay awake 3, 4 in the morning.
Mm,
And we saw Peter Yan put on a clinic.
mm.
And I've always said, yeah, Peter Yan on his day, when he's on it, he's a very difficult man to beat.
Incredible fighter.
Yeah, people are trying to say that Peter Yan's washed, he's this, he's that. Listen, he had a bit of a stage where he was losing a few fights here and there, a few close decisions that he lost. But this is still Peter Yan, and I still say he's arguably the best boxer in the UFC. Very, very good striker, and he showed
His trips.
he showed his all-round game as well. He can his takedown defense, his grappling, and he beat a very difficult opponent in Figueiredo.
Exactly. This is the point that I
People
want to
are-
make. This
people are
is the
trying to
point.
say, exactly.
I was Figueiredo is one of my favorite fighters on the roster. Win or lose, he brings it. I just remember I mean, how many fights did he have with Moreno? I just think of the first one in the Apex, which was mad. Obviously, he got choked out and then he won the belt again. But his power was translated to bantamweight. He dropped Peter Yan.
Exactly.
Like, and it was
He's not your typical flyweight coming up to bantamweight who can't carry the power, and he looks like a natural bantamweight. I reckon
how
he
he stayed
was too big for flyweight.
how he stayed at 125 pounds.
You look at the weigh-in as well. He looked sucked up at bantamweight when he was making 135. It looked like he struggled to make the weight. But this is still a legit win. And listen, Figueiredo's not out of it as well. I say Figueiredo, if he can get back on the board, get 1 or 2 wins. This bantamweight division, like I say, all
Still
the
a
time,
shark tank.
it is extremely stacked. And now you've got Figueiredo to add to the list. But listen, where does Petr Yan go from here?
Well, Marab's been pushing for the Peter Yan rematch. He's saying that that performance was good enough for him to grant Peter Yan another fight. And we don't know what's happening with Umar either. You know, the Umar Nurmagomedov fight against Marab. I mean, it seemed like that was the one to make. And then Umar said he's just recovered now from a arm injury, I believe, and he'd be ready to fight, or he wasn't ready to fight in January, which was UFC's plans at the beginning. Listen, there's a debate. Umar beat Sanhagen, which is a great win. Don't get twisted. Umar beating Sanhagen is a great win, but is that enough to warrant him a title shot?
We can go back and forth and say, does Umar deserve a shot? Does Petr Yan now deserve a shot? In my opinion, Umar deserves a shot. But the only thing that matters is Dana White's opinion. And Dana White has come out and said multiple times that Umar Nurmagomedov is next in line. And when Dana says someone's next in line, they're next in line. And do you know how Dana is? It's a dictatorship. You know, the UFC is a dictatorship.
Yeah, but he did say that Strickland's next in line. And is that still happening?
Yeah, but Jan's performance against Figueiredo was good. It wasn't as prolific as Chimaev's performance against Whittaker. You know, when Chimaev, the way he beat Whittaker, you kind of have to give him the shot. Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
The way he ran through Whittaker, Jan performed very well, but it wasn't.
I think they gave him like 4 to 5 rounds. You know that?
You know, it was a dominant win. It was a very, very good performance.
Crazy.
But it wasn't as prolific as Chimaev. Chimaev choked the guy out, bro. It was a bit different. But listen, Petr Yan was never gone, in my opinion. I'm seeing a lot of people say he's back. Petr Yan's back.
Well, if you look,
no, Petr Yan was never gone. He was never ever gone. Petr Yan was just going through a phase where he was losing very close decisions, where he was allowing guys to hold him down.
no, apart from the Marab one.
But you have to also say Figueiredo did take him down at one point. He needs to brush on that up because you cannot go into a fight with Marab and you've got Figueiredo holding you down, respectfully, because Marab will see that and he will target that. And Marab is not a guy that you can get up very easily.
He did that for 25 minutes. Yeah, like they fought and he 50-45'd them.
Yeah, but Marab is a different animal. Marab will not let you get back up. And Marab knows how to nick rounds. He knows how to steal the rounds from
that's
you.
what I'm saying. I'm saying Marab's already done that to Peter Yan.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So he would have the confidence to do that again. It would be mostly on Peter Yan to show that he can stuff Marab's takedowns.
Yeah. Do you think he showed enough of that in the Figueiredo fight? I know he won.
It wasn't that type of fight though.
Yeah,
it was
I know it was an all-round.
It was a mixed martial arts fight.
But you wouldn't say Figueiredo's. He can grapple Figueiredo. He's got a very good BJJ. But wrestling-wise, would you say Figueiredo's the best wrestler at bantamweight? Maybe top 5. Maybe he's not the best wrestler at bantamweight. You can name a few wrestlers better than him. So if Figueiredo can get him down and hold him down, I'd say it's not a good look for him going into a fight.
It was the first round though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but still, that's too much though, in my opinion. That's one round too much.
Yeah, that is one round too much.
Marab took down Cejudo. Marab held him down as well. He ragdolled Cejudo. But that is the kind of level of wrestler we're talking about right now. So if Marab can do that to a guy like Cejudo, respectfully, he won't struggle to take down Peter Yan, especially now that Figueiredo took him down. But we don't want to put Yan down too much. But we're just talking about if he does get a title shot, which is what he wants. But
I mean, the event itself, the knockouts. Did you see the one where the girl got knocked out so badly, a stretcher like that? Yeah, that's one of those things where it puts MMA in perspective a little bit. Like we see so many finishes, and it seems like the norm where he's been knocked out so badly or she's been knocked out so badly, but you know they come back and they're awake in the octagon and they go back, you know. But this one was scary. Like to get the stretcher, because we rarely see the stretcher in the octagon, yeah? The last time I can remember the stretcher was what? McGregor when he broke his leg? Maybe there's been examples, but he was awake. He just broke his leg.
You don't usually have a stretcher out for someone that gets KO'd.
That's scary.
It was a heavy KO, and you don't really see those kind of knockouts in women's MMA as well. I mean, the last one I can think of is probably Jessica Shevchenko. Similar knockout when she went stiff. But yeah, you don't really see that kind of power as well in the lower weight classes in the women's divisions as well. So, I mean, fair play.
That was a crazy
knockout. And of course, hopefully she's better.
But the card itself, the knockouts were nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was knockout after knockout after knockout.
Yeah. And
it's just one of those cards where you don't expect it to be a mad card. You start watching
but it's always like that though.
Yeah, the cards that you expect to be a madness.
And you know what?
Aren't the ones that become a madness, if that makes sense.
And you know what? Transitioning swiftly to 310, I do feel like that's a pay-per-view that's like that, because for me, if we're going to look at the card fully, there's definitely fights that are going under the radar so nicely. Because I did have a quick look at it. Obviously,
it's decent. We can start from the main event.
We can start with the main event.
We'll go with Pantoja.
And you know what? Let me just start.
Asakura, who makes his debut, of course.
Let me just start with this. Yeah, for me personally, I feel like Pantoja gets unnecessary hate. The reason being is because I don't know. It's like certain MMA fans, they can't accept that this guy's a really, 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 really good grappler. Yeah, but it's also his heart. Like his heart is different. I've said this more than once, but this guy will get a takedown when he is so tired. And I don't think people understand how hard that is to manage to go get that takedown when your heart rate is through the roof and you're half dying and it's the 4th or 5th round and you still manage to get that takedown and you still manage to, you know, get that control. And people are forgetting his route
as well. He doesn't take a back step.
His route to the title. I remember the fight against who was it against? Alex Perez. He just walked him down. 2-minute job.
I literally just watched that just before coming here.
Yeah. Walked him down.
It was a mad fight. He just walked him down.
And he just choked him out. He backpacked him.
No, 100%. His jiu-jitsu is insane. But would you say that kind of style where, I mean, even with that fight, that Perez fight, where he was just winging, wasn't really throwing any jabs, no real technique.
But how could I?
But would you say that's a smart kind of style going into a fight with Asakura, who we know has knockout power, who we know has knocked people out in a heavier weight class as well?
No, he's gonna have to mix it and time his takedowns.
He's a big guy. He needs to go with that takedown approach, but he cannot be swinging wild, in my opinion, against a guy like Asakura.
No, his boxing's gonna have to be crisp.
Who's a monster, and not just he needs to not be as reckless. He doesn't really need to box as well. Just don't be as reckless and give this guy openings, because all he needs is one punch. And Asakura was interviewed as well recently. And he said, all I need to land is that one punch. I know how good Pantoja is. But Pantoja, he's questioning Pantoja. He's saying, does Pantoja have that power to knock me out with one punch?
No,
he doesn't.
I don't think
Asakura says, all I need is that one punch.
But can Asakura stuff Pantoja's takedowns for 25 minutes?
That's the question. But then you could also ask, can Pantoja stand with him on the feet?
So
because the fight starts on the feet. Before the takedown happens, they're at range. He needs to make sure he closes the distance properly. Can he do that? And can he avoid getting clipped before he gets taken down?
Okay, let me ask you a question now. Is the gulf in striking between Asakura and a Brandon Moreno or Brandon Royval that big that he's had to prepare completely differently this camp?
I reckon he's a better striker than Moreno.
But by a lot. Or Brandon Royval. Yeah. Brandon Royval's a great striker.
I mean, he's a bit of an unknown entity because you can look at what he's done outside the UFC, and we see a lot of guys that have amazing striking outside the UFC. They come to the UFC, and it's a different animal. We see guys come to the UFC and they dominate. So I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting, but it's an interesting fight. I just reckon Asakura may shock the world, and I might.
Is it?
I might put it out there again. This is
knockout.
This is a prediction from me. Asakura knockout.
Asakura knockout
In the mid rounds, so round 3, early round 4.
Damn.
I think Pantoja, I mean, he looks good, Pantoja. I rate him, but he's a bit too reckless before he gets a takedown.
I mean, let's be honest.
Once he gets on the mats, that's his.
Let's be honest, yeah. I'd say the Urseg fight for Pantoja was maybe a little bit of a step back in terms of entertainment. But if you tell me you watched the first Brando, well, it wasn't the first Brando Moreno fight because he finished him, but the second one for the title, if you tell me that was not an entertaining fight, then MMA is not for you. And then you watch the Brando.
Pantoja's fights are entertaining.
But
that's what I saw a tweet. I
saw a tweet that said Pantoja has got an even more boring style than Merab.
No. Merab, listen, it depends on what kind of.
No. It wasn't Merab. It was Bilal.
Yeah.
It was Bilal.
You know what? I don't find Bilal boring. It might just be me, but people think knockouts and I don't know, landing heavy punches is exciting. For me, exciting is domination. For me, seeing a guy dominate somebody, for me,
Bilal doesn't.
No, but you know what Bilal's gonna do? He's gonna press you, dirty boxing, and take you down.
Yeah, but his ground and pound is not vicious.
Yeah, I know, but the fact that you know what he's gonna do and you still can't stop him, that takes a high level of skill. Of course. And for me, that's entertaining. He's not as good as Khabib. He's not as good as Khabib.
That's what I was gonna say.
But what I'm saying is,
you couldn't stop Khabib.
Nah, you couldn't stop Khabib. Khabib's ground and pound was different level.
If you are going to be this mauler, you're going to be this guy that's going to take down people and they can do absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah.
You either have to be a master at getting to positions to get your submissions, or you have to punch the guy's face
he's
through the ground.
He's a mauler. He's a mauler, and he does have underrated power as well because he did stop Sean Brady on the feet. People forget that. Sean Brady, who's on a bit of a resurgence right now, who's arguably one of the best.
Sean Brady definitely had an off night though.
He's rumoured to fight Leon Edwards. But the whole off night thing, okay, but it's not Bilal's fault he had an off night.
No, it's not
Bilal
Bilal's
still
fault.
has to get the job done. Bilal still has to get the job done.
But if they fought again, I don't think he'd finish Sean Brady.
No, I still think he'd beat him because I think their wrestling would cancel each other out. And I still think Bilal's pressure is a different level. Bilal is a different.
Do you not think Bilal should do a better job ground and pounding?
You know what?
Because he has no submission threat.
No,
he has no submission
He has
threat.
no submission threat. He doesn't really have a knockout threat. I get that. But if what you're doing is getting you wins, if you're already having success,
he's champion.
Then why change it? That's my opinion. That's my opinion. He kind of fights he throws maybe 50% power in his punches, pressure. He doesn't really load up. He's just trying to pressure you, hold you down. He's not really trying to submit you. He just wants to dominate you. It's similar to Khabib minus the ground and pound.
But that caps your star power. That caps how entertaining you are.
I just think he wants to win. He doesn't really care about.
And when someone says, "I find Pantoja more boring than Bilal," do you think Bilal will ever walk down his opponent and manage to backpack someone and choke him inside 2 minutes?
You could argue Bilal fights with more technique and more finesse than Pantoja. Pantoja's a bit wild, a bit reckless. And you could argue Bilal's level of competition is a lot better than Pantoja's as well. So you could throw both things out there.
I mean, I don't know.
People are using Bilal as an example to kind of put Pantoja down, saying, "Oh, you fight like Bilal." I'd say Pantoja wishes he fought like Bilal. Let's be real. Pantoja's a bit wild. He finishes people, but you look at the level of competition he's finishing compared to Bilal. And Bilal isn't finishing anybody, but look at the guys Bilal's in the cage with.
I mean, don't like Brandon Moreno. We saw him last time out. He looked amazing. Yeah, he's not finished. He beat Brandon Moreno that fight. He dropped him. Pantoja's got power in his hands. People are forgetting. He was dropping Brandon Moreno.
Do you think it'll get to a stage where, especially if Pantoja beats Asakura, he has to go up in weight?
No,
because that's the question mark for all flyweights. I mean, Mighty Mouse had it at one point. Cejudo went up in weight eventually. When guys dominate in that weight class, specifically 125, there's always that pressure to go up in weight. Do you think that pressure will come for Pantoja as well?
No, I don't think Pantoja would do well at 135. 125 is definitely his weight. I don't think he could translate like a Figueiredo has. Yeah. And on top of that, I feel like Figueiredo and Pantoja, I still think Figueiredo is the better fighter. So continue your legacy at 125. You've got a few scalps. Since becoming champion, you would have had Moreno, you would have had Brandon Royval, You would have had Urseg and then Asakura. That's a solid CV for being as a champion. I know at the lower weights, especially 125, it's kind of like what you're one win away, right? You're always one win away from being at that title if you're in the top 5. So I understand that. There's not really new blood that's coming up like that. But if Pantoja wins next week and stays at the weight, then there'll start to be a solid argument. Is he the best? Well, no. Nah, I guess there's Demetrius Johnson. I was going to say
no,
nah.
but there is that argument, though. I mean, of course, Mighty Mouse. It'll take a while,
nah. But he definitely...
People are saying, though, after Mighty Mouse, Pantoja's the next best flyweight of all time. That's the argument there. And to be honest, especially if he beats Asakura in the upcoming weekend, you can't really doubt him. But I just want to go back to that Bilal point, yeah? So you're saying Bilal... Would you say Bilal's a boring fighter? I don't think he's boring. Would you say he's a boring fighter?
Damn. Do I think Bilal's boring?
I think he's quality. And I've given my reasons why.
I'll tell you what. Obviously, there was a Sean Brady and you got the finish. And like people couldn't believe that. And they knocked Sean Brady into next week like with hate. But I will say, the fight against Leon Edwards...
It was impressive to me.
It was impressive.
Look what he's doing
to Leon Edwards.
Look what he's doing to Leon Edwards. He's so good.
It was impressive.
Taking him down with that first takedown where he flipped him over his head. Taking him down. Leon can't do anything to stop him. Minus that 5th round where Leon had a lot of success. It was a
Okay, let me ask you this though. Do you think after the performance that Leon had against Bilal, he's going to be the same?
That's a very good question. And there's rumors. I mean, Leon was interviewed last night. You know, the Sonny Edwards and the fight. But Leon was in the
he
the
confirmed
crowd,
he's going to headline.
And he said he's going to confirm. Yeah, he was going to headline the March card. And there's rumors. Who's he going to fight? There's Sean Brady and there's JDM. So it's interesting. I say if he fights Sean Brady, he loses because Sean has that same style where he's trying to take you down.
But do you feel
he may not have the same confidence in his takedown defense. But if he fights a striker like Jack, he has a better chance of winning.
I'll tell you what though, Jack Della Maddalena against Leon Edwards.
Where's his head at? Where's his head at? That's an interesting fight. And I want to pose a question at you guys as well. Yeah, not just us. Yeah, I want to pose a question at you guys as well. Do you think Leon Edwards will be the same fighter in his next fight? Because we do see guys who were champion lose the belt. They kind of
and it's the way he lost it and who he lost it to.
Exactly. He was very confident going into that Bilal fight.
He thought that was light work.
Thought it was everybody. I thought it was going to be light work. I'll be real. I thought Leon was going to. I mean,
didn't you say Bilal was going to win?
No. I thought it was going to be light work at the start, and then towards the end, I thought, let me go with Bilal. But I thought Leon going into that fight has a good chance of winning because he stuffed most of Usman's takedowns. And on paper, you've got to say Usman's the better wrestler when it comes to Bilal. That was my.
But that's the reason why people are putting a lot of stock on that was an off night for Leon about fighting at 5 o'clock in the morning. All of this. That's why I'm asking. Could he come out next time round?
We'll see if it was an off night by his performance in March. Because it's going to be in London again.
Because the Leon
we'll see if the UFC do the same nonsense with the time. I hope they don't do that nonsense again.
Yeah. Because the Leon that beat Usman in the trilogy and the Leon that beat Colby, you know, they weren't the most entertaining fights. But like you said, he was stuffing takedowns from. I mean, Colby wasn't even able to sniff a takedown against Leon. So for him to get picked up, dragged onto
I think Colby's a good example of fighters who have not been the same. That's losing. I mean, he had an interim belt at one point. He lost to Usman a few times. Since then, I don't think he's been the same.
He's not active.
He's not been the same, and he's been booked to fight as well against Buckley. It's an interesting fight.
That is real interesting.
That's
because
if I don't know, Buckley's on a very good run, but then if Colby
turns still back that
the
elite
clock,
fighter,
if he turns back the clock and pressures him and takes him down, I don't think Buckley can stop his takedown. But then, does Colby have the same urge and pressure? He looked a bit shy against Edwards. He looked a bit gun shy. The pressure wasn't there. His takedown wasn't there. His takedown defense was poor. And he looks a bit of a shell of the fighter he was. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see what kind of Colby we see. It's interesting to see what kind of Leon Edwards we see. And imagine both of them lose. It will be a completely different weight class now.
It would be.
If Leon loses to whoever he's scheduled to fight, if it's Madalena or if it's
blown wide open.
Exactly, it's blown wide open. It's kind of a new era now. The guys who are at the top are now, struggling.
It's not really been like that at lightweight where there's been that
It's the
massive
same,
clear out.
Yeah. Lightweight's just been Gaethje, Poirier, Charles, Islam.
Yeah.
Sarukian's kind of trying to push his way in.
Sarukian, yeah, exactly.
But other than
Chandler.
that,
But
Chandler, yeah, it's the same faces.
going back to the main event, so you got Asakura by knockout coming into the UFC.
Asakura,
first fight, first title
and let's hope
fight.
he makes weight because the UFC are taking a gamble.
Right.
He's never made 125. Fought at 135 pretty much his whole career. So it's interesting to see if he makes weight. If he can make the weight, he looks good at the weight. I reckon he's gonna shock everybody.
And I am gonna go the opposite direction, and I think this will be either Pantoja finish late, making Asakura tired, through his grappling, or a unanimous decision. So one of those two. But either way, I have Pantoja retaining his title. And then we go into probably the most anticipated fight. Now we touched on
best fight on the card.
We touched on this fight a little bit last time round.
I don't think there's a limit of how much we can talk about this fight. I think we can go on for days.
No, it's true.
Shavkat, Ian Gary, the people's main event. Cracking fight. Shout out to Ian Gary for taking the fight. I mean, the boogeyman Shavkat. I've got to say now, yeah, you know, as the fight's getting closer, of course, I'm always going to go for Shavkat. Shavkat, undefeated, 100% finish rate. I just don't see Ian Gary being the man to stop him. But I also think this will probably be Shavkat's toughest fight. Because the fight, listen, starts on the feet. It's a 5-round fight. Hopefully it's a 5-round fight. Has it been confirmed 5 rounds? It's a 5-round fight. You've got to give Ian Gary his shot. Because listen, he's undefeated. He's confident. And we've always seen him get the job done. Even that fight where he fought Li Jingliang. Or not Li Jingliang, sorry. Oh, I forgot the guy's name.
Who?
When Ian Gary got knocked down and he came back. It's not Li Jingliang.
Song Kanan.
Yeah.
No. Something like that. Yeah.
That fight there where he got knocked down.
That was early in his career.
He showed that he can come back from adversity. So he has that in him to come back from adversity, and I think he'll be pushed to the same limits against Shavkat. He's also a very crisp striker. If you look at the striking on the feet, you could argue Ian Gary is probably a bit more crisp, a bit more clean, a bit better technique at range, especially. So it's a closer fight than you think. But I've got to go with Shavkat. I've just got to go with Shavkat.
How I'm thinking about this fight is regarding Shavkat. He's gonna have to be definitely a bit more defensively sound than a performance like he had against Jeff Neal, for example. Now I know he's fought since. He's fought Wonder Boy, for example, and he just managed to take him down and submit him. But when I look at the Jeff Neal fight, as entertaining as it was mainly on the feet. And Jeff Neal was landing some punches. Now, Ian Gary as a striker, Jeff Neal as a striker, you probably still you edge it to Ian Gary, right? More technical and whatnot. Jeff Neal's definitely got a lot of power. But I'm just saying, in terms of Shavkat, the things that he has to be aware of is being defensively sound. He can't just walk down Ian Gary, I don't think. Especially not fresh. Especially not the first 2 rounds. Where he would just walk him down and expect I'm gonna kill this guy like immediately. I think he's gonna have to take a little bit more of a patient approach. Not saying he's gonna have to land some punches and make Ian Gary understand that. But they've trained together. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how hard they've sparred together, right?
Apparently it was soft. The sparring was
soft kickboxing rounds. But you're gauging a little bit of the striking. You're gauging the tendencies, right, of the other person. Now, I hope that doesn't impact the fight in that either one of them are tentative because they know something can be fired back. Because at the end of the day, the stocks are massive, especially for Ian Gary, right? For Shavkat and the Shavkat, the stocks are massive because he's undefeated. He finishes everyone, and he was supposed to fight for the title. If he loses, then it's 3 steps back.
Put it this way: if Shavkat beats Ian Gary, he goes into that fight with Bilal as a favorite.
He was going into that fight with Bilal as a favorite.
If Ian Gary wins against Shavkat and they give him the shot, you could still say Bilal will still be the favorite going into that fight. So
depends how he wins.
Yeah, but even if he wins,
if Ian Gary knocks out Shavkat, he's going into the Bilal fight favorite.
Yeah, but I don't see the knockout win. But I mean, listen, you could argue, yeah, Shavkat's a bit of a slow starter the way he fights. He always grows as the fight goes on. Ian Gary is pretty much the opposite, a quick starter. You could say Ian Gary could nick those early rounds, that second round. He could nick those rounds. And then you've got Shavkat kind of playing catch up. That could happen. And then he gets a bit desperate and then ends up finishing him towards the end. But I say Shavkat wins. It might be the first fight where he gets taken to a decision.
Mm.
Maybe.
I mean, you're talking
So
about
I rate Ian Gary.
you're talking about striking from the outside and whatnot, landing leg kicks, getting out of range.
Jabbing.
Ian
moving.
Gary would, and then we saw a completely different approach that he had against MVP. Now, when we look at Ian Gary, the character, Ian Gary, the person, Ian Gary, the fighter, it's almost like there's different categories. If Ian Gary, you just judge the fighter and not the antics that he might have said. Because, for example, in his last fight against MVP, the whole build-up was, this is a stand-up fight. I'm going to smoke MVP at his own game, and there's a knockout incoming.
It's mind games.
And then the fight came wrestling heavy. And he got the win. But it's those things there where it's like, oh, I'm going to make it a war. Finding little things with MVP and like making it a bit distasteful, for example, and then blessing it. And it's some of the antics he's had outside the octagon are a little bit questionable. But when you look at him as a pure fighter, he said that he'll be at the top of the welterweight division, and he's here now. He said he's a gamer. He's proven it. So when you look at him, just as a fighter, Ian Gary deserves the respect of any MMA fan.
That's all I care about as well. Everyone's talking about the antics, the personality. I don't care about any of that. I just want to see him as in the cage as a fighter. And for me, that's all I'm going to judge. I think people do too much when it comes to, he's this, he's that, his personality, his personal life. For me, it's irrelevant. That for me, the main thing is he's a UFC fighter, he's an MMA fighter. I'm looking at his skill set in the cage, and he's got a very good skill set. He's very long and rangy as well. I'd say he's one of the tallest. He probably is one of the tallest at welterweight, and he uses his range and height very well. There's guys that are tall, Magny for example, who doesn't really use his height and range. But the best example is Stefan Struve, who's 7 foot, doesn't know how to use his range. He's rangy and knows how to use it, and he definitely has to use that range against Shavkat. You can't fight Shavkat on the inside; he'll destroy you.
The dirty boxing. Shavkat's dirty boxing.
Keep him at range.
Yeah.
Keep him at range and nick rounds.
And I feel like Ian Gary as well, because he trains pretty much everywhere. I mean, he was doing his camp in Thailand. He's trained with Shooter Box. He's got grappling rounds with Charles Oliveira. They've got a strong relationship. So I feel like he picks up nuggets from everywhere he goes, which as a fighter, you see so many fighters that just, they don't take the next level because they're at the same gym and they're at the same coaches and they do the same drills and they don't really take that next step. They don't look at, for example, Usman, when he started training with Trevor Whitman, what that did for his career. Justin Gaethje, same. You know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes you have to branch out a little bit and get those skills. And I feel like Ian Gary, he does that. He goes to different gyms, he goes to different places, and he adds nuggets to his game. And he's a student on the game. He loves MMA. You can tell.
Shavkat is the same. I mean, I saw a little clip the other day. Shavkat missed his own sister's wedding because he was training for a fight. This guy, he puts his career first as well. He's super dedicated. He's obviously from that Caucasus region as well. We know how serious those guys are when it comes to fighting.
But you feel like there's a little bit of extra pressure because since Shavkat's arrived in the UFC, it almost feels like it's inevitable that he will become champion. Yeah, and he's kept up this streak of finishing everybody. But the thing is,
so mad, that's so crazy.
It's crazy. But the thing is, as well, is like I don't feel like Shavkat's that type of person. He's not even thinking about that. His mind doesn't even like, I need to keep this streak going, I'm so close.
He's the kind of fighter where he can sniff when his opponent's fading.
Yeah.
He's very good at upping the pace and pressure when he has to. Some guys will have a guy that's hurt right in front of them. Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards. He had Edwards hurt. Doesn't know how to stop him. Doesn't sniff that his opponent's weakening. Some guys just have it in them. Some guys are finishers. They're
Charles
Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is the same when
smells blood.
Exactly. When some guys, when they smell blood, you look at Pereira versus Khalil.
Yeah.
He saw Khalil was slowing down and just put it on him. Guys know how to pace themselves, when to up the pressure at the right time. And Shavkat, you could say, is one of the best at doing that because he has a 100% finish record. And it's not finishes where he's just swinging and knocking people at one punch. He can do that, but all of his finishes are he's just walking you down, chipping away. And he either gets the choke or he stops you on the feet. So, I mean, Ian Gary needs to be wary of that. And he needs to have a poker face as well. If he is hurt, do not let Shavkat sense that.
Yeah.
Which won't be easy.
But yeah, going back to that, like Ian Gary must, through even the light sparring rounds that they've had, he truly believes that there's a way to beat Shafkat. Even though when you think about it, like you said, he's the better BF of MMA, right? That was your take.
Even though
It's
Beterbiev, obviously he didn't finish his last fight, but still he still won.
but in a sense where it's like this guy is finishable. Do you know there's a weakness to his game that we haven't seen yet. But in the training room, Ian Gary must feel like I can land something, or I can make I can. I, to be honest, in his heart of hearts, do you think Ian Gary feels that he can? I know he feels that he can finish him, but if you put him in a dark room and you put a lie detector test, I feel like he feels his best method of winning is outpointing Shafkat over 5 rounds. I feel like in his heart of hearts,
Is that what he said? He came out and said he
no. This is what I think. I think he'll say he can finish Shafkat.
Of course.
But
I will never knock a fighter for saying that.
Yeah.
Paddy went on a podcast recently and said,
yeah.
I'll beat Islam. And people are giving him stick.
Why?
What fighter who's in the best promotion
in the
world,
top 15 of his own division would be
exactly,
like,
the
the
UFC is
champion.
the ultimate organization, the best MMA organization with the best fighters. Well, of course he's going to say he's the best. If you ask me and Louis, do you have the best podcast? We're going to say we have the best podcast. You know what I mean? You have to back yourself. So any fighter that says, I'm going to win, I'm the best fighter, because of course you have to believe that.
He showed respect to Islam. He's
He
a great champion and whatnot.
I think I'll beat him. I don't think he beats him, but what matters is the fighter getting in there, and you have to go. If you go in and you think you're going to lose, you're not going to achieve anything.
Especially like, there's one thing, maybe you're a young kid coming up and you're not even in the UFC yet, and you said, if I fought Islam tomorrow, I'd beat him. Obviously, you're going to be like, people are going to be like, what are you talking about? But Paddy is a top 15 in the lightweight, right? He's 2-3 fights away from a title shot. So, of course, he has to be like, well, if Islam's still the champion when I get to the top 5, then, of course, imagining its surface, oh, yeah, do you know what? Islam would be a tough fight, I probably have to go and get better before I can fight. No.
The only time maybe I'll have a bit of a problem or I'll question it, it's like, if Bo Nickel comes out and says, I'll finish this guy in 20 seconds, but we look at his performances and he's not finishing people in 20 seconds, and he's looking at guys like Chimaev or Shara or guys at the top of the weight class and saying, I'll finish them in a minute. But we're looking at his resume right now and what he's done. He's not really wowing us, especially his most recent performance. But on the flip side, if Prates comes out and says, I'll knock out the welterweight champion in a round or in a minute, you've got to kind of say, okay, because he is doing that. He is knocking people out quickly. He is finishing people in a round. He is backing up his talk. So it's about your body of work, how you've beaten the people that you've just fought, and how you're speaking. It has to kind of match.
I tell you what, though, a dream matchup that I need to see at some point will be Shafkat against Carlos Prates. That is a fight. I mean, I'm putting it into the MMA universe right now. I need to see that fight at some point, whether that be for a title or a #1 contender, whatever it may be.
I reckon I'll be for a title, especially if Shafkat gets the belt. I don't think we'll see Shafkat lose the belt. If he gets a hold of that belt, it's a wrap for the welterweight division. Because we always talk about that 10% better. Shafkat's already a demon, yeah. Imagine he gets 10% better with every title defense. I'm telling you now, yeah, and people are not taking me seriously. This is a future pound for pound #1 fighter. I'm telling you now. Jones is obviously back, but Jones is obviously going to retire in the next year or two, max. So Jones is going to be out the window, yeah. He's going to be gone. Legend, GOAT, whatever, yeah. Shafkat is the next guy. He's the heir to that throne. He's the heir to that pound for pound #1.
Above Islam.
I'm telling you now, especially if he gets the belt, because I think there's better guys at welterweight. I think the lightweight division is a bit washed right now, like in terms of level of competition. I'll be real. Beating Leon Edwards, beating Bilal, beating Ian Gary. I mean, what other contenders? Prates, if he comes up, Brady. I think these are all better wins than JDM. These are all better wins than Poirier and Gaethje, bro.
Whoa!
I'll be real. No, I'll be real, especially where they are in their careers now. Of course, Poirier's had a great career.
Let us know if you agree with that take, because I don't know. I'm a bit shaky on that one.
Where Poirier and Gaethje are in their careers right now, compared to JDM, who's on the rise, compared to Leon Edwards, compared to Prates, there's people that are missing right now. Sean Brady. For me, the welterweight division is a bigger shark tank than the lightweight division. At one point, the lightweight division was the best. You look at Sarukian, Gaethje, and Poirier. Other than that, can you name me other fighters that are elite at lightweight? Charles, of course. Sorry, I missed out Charles. But other than those four,
I mean, you hate Moicano, but I think he's great.
I don't think Moicano's elite. I don't think Moicano's elite like that. I'll be real. Who else is there at lightweight?
Dan Hooker.
Dan Hooker's on a bit of a resurgence, but is he really elite? I think he's a very good fighter, but I don't think he'll ever become a champion. Jack Maddalena could become a champion. Prates has the ability to become a champion. Sean Brady, the way he's looking right now, has the ability to become a champion.
So you're saying it's going to be a hot potato thing? But you're saying Shafkat's going to keep hold of that.
Yeah.
So you're saying how are you giving so much? You're saying
I think Shafkat's resume, once he's got the belt, and the kind of guys that he will have to face are better than the guys at lightweight. For me, lightweight's a bit. It's still top 3, top 4.
So when it's all said and done, Shafkat will have a better resume than Islam.
I think eventually he will. I think Islam has to go up in weight. Everyone's talking about Islam has to go up in weight because, bro, the competition for him at lightweight isn't.
Okay, who in welterweight is better than welterweight is better than Charles Oliveira pound for pound?
Obviously, Charles's career, you've got to go.
But if Islam beat Charles twice, yeah, let's say after the Arman Sarukian fight,
but Charles's resume is mad though. That's why in terms of who he's beaten. But I'm saying the level of competition at welterweight is better in my opinion. I think welterweight's a better weight class.
Let us know what is the better weight class in the UFC right now. Welterweight at 155.
Right now,
you're convinced
the higher level of competition is at welterweight, and I'm missing people as well. There's guys that I'm missing who are elite. It's that stacked, the welterweight division. Buckley as well. Let's add Buckley to that list as well. Colby, if he has a bit of a resurgence. For me, lightweight is just the same guys: Gaethje, Poirier, Oliveira, and Sarukian, who's also been around for a while.
Sendani was going to be that guy.
He's not the guy though. Moicano is not really that guy. Paddy's a good fighter, but I don't think he'll trouble the top guys. Who else is there? Dan Hooker, he's been there. Dan Hooker's been in the mix with the top guys, and he's lost. You've got a guy in Holloway who's a featherweight.
Oh yeah,
who came up in weight and knocked out one of the best fighters at lightweight. Holloway, he wasn't even champion at featherweight, who'd lost to Volkanovski 3 times, went up in weight and knocked out one of the best fighters at lightweight, who's Gaethje. And we can all agree Gaethje is one of the best fighters at lightweight. Coming off a knockout win over Poirier. And he knocked him out, he handled him. And even before the knockout, he was dominating.
Yeah, no, you're making good points.
Give me a lightweight that goes up in weight and dominates one of the top welterweights.
Islam.
No, but he's the champion. Holloway wasn't the champion when he went up in weight. Give me like a contender. You can even go with Charles, for example, yeah?
Charles, I don't know if
Charles go up in weight.
I don't know if
he could win. But could he dominate?
No.
Dominate one of the top guys. A Maddalena. Or so many top guys. One of the top guys at welterweight. Or even a Buckley. Dominate him. You can't guarantee that. I was confident for Holloway going into that Gaethje fight. I felt Holloway was technically better. That's just my opinion. I think the lightweight division is not what it was back in the day.
All right, so let's do a prediction for that fight. You're saying Shafkat unanimous decision.
Yeah.
First time he doesn't get a finish.
The first time he gets taken to a decision, but he still dominates. I reckon 4 rounds to 1.
You know what? I'm not even gonna go against that. I feel like Shafkat maybe doesn't get the finish and wins unanimous decision. I feel like he wins 4 rounds or 3 rounds. And Ian Gary will have instances where, like you said, maybe Shafkat has a little bit of a slow start and he gets the first or even the second, and then Shafkat's going to have to rally through. Yeah. But you never know. There's been a lot of fights where I'm like, I can't see the finish, and boom. So there could be a finish.
What if Ian Gary shocks the world?
Mad.
What if Ian Gary shocks the world?
Yeah.
That might be bigger than, you could argue that might be bigger than Bilal and Leon. Because nobody expected Bilal to win. And nobody really expects Ian Gary to win. It could be on that level in terms of upsets.
Do you know what? Let me check the odds for that. Because I'm sure the odds of Bilal beating Leon in Manchester, you would get higher odds than Ian Gary. Oh, Shafkat's undefeated. Do you know what? It's hard. It's hard to say, to be honest. But continuing, I'd say unanimous decision for Shafkat as well. This fight, Cyril Gane against Alexander Volkov, is a rematch. Gane beat Volkov a couple years back. This fight was meant to happen when 308, I believe, in for the Topuria Holloway, and it got rescheduled. solid heavyweight matchup. You kind of feel like it's leaning towards Jones is gonna have that last fight, and fingers crossed we get to see the Aspinall, John Jones fight. But high stakes for whoever wins here convincingly, definitely stakes a claim at being next after that. Whether they want to wait that amount of time is up to them, but especially for Cyril Gane or Volkov, because he beat Pavlovich last time round, he's having a bit of a resurgence. A good win, and you're in the conversation to get a title shot. So, what do you think about that fight?
I think Gane still has a part to play at the top of the heavyweight division. I still think he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. On the feet is very, very good. His Achilles heel is very clear. It's the grappling, it's the wrestling, submission defense. It's not really there. I don't think that will be tested that much against Volkov. So I think it will just be very
I don't
similar.
see Volkov wrestling.
You don't really see Volkov, exactly. Volkov's more of a striker himself. He probably is a pretty poor grappler as well. Think about it. You look at what Aspinall did to him, quick submission win. So I still think Gane will win, but we still won't learn a lot about Gane because of this win. Because we won't really see his grappling. And I know he's had a win since the Jones fight, but we're not really learning his grappling defense. I think it's good for him to go up against a guy like Curtis Blades, just to see, has he been working on that grappling? And Almeida, those are better fights for him going into a fight with Aspinall.
Answer more questions.
Answer questions about his big glaring Achilles heel, which is his grappling. I don't think we'll learn much about Gane in this fight. I just think it's just another Gane performance where he keeps you at range, dominates you, deep kicks, and ends up possibly stopping Volkov. So I'm going Gane stoppage win.
Really?
Gane stoppage win.
Gane unanimous decision. I don't know if he finishes it, but I think he wins.
I don't know what the round, but I reckon he stops it.
Going down, Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie on the main card.
Is this Bryce Mitchell's first fight back since the Emmett?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good because we don't know what kind of Bryce Mitchell we're going to get.
Gracie is not going to strike with him.
He's not. I know he's not going to strike with him, but it's a confidence thing, isn't it? The confidence thing.
I mean, he would be in his own world if it's a grappling or submission heavy fight. Doesn't need to worry about a nuke coming towards his head.
Yeah, now Bryce can grapple as well, but Krone's a different level. But Krone's last performance was shocking.
Yeah, it was stinky.
Yeah, he's just a typical jiu-jitsu fighter that hasn't worked on his wrestling.
This is kind of like a...
If Krone can get you on the mat, it's a wrap. It is a wrap. That guy's BJJ's different level. It's a different.
I still, even though
he could be in his guard, he can be in half guard, whatever. He's getting a submission, leg lock, DAS. He can pull everything out the bag. But can he get you on the mats? Now he could just pull guard, and it will be interesting. He has a good guard, but then he tried to do that in his last fight, and he wasn't. I can't. No, it's mad. It was so long ago. But let me.
No, I'll find it.
Yeah, but with Krone, it's just can he get you on the mats? And he needs to find a better way to do that. In his last performance, it was he was forcing it too much. He wasn't really getting the takedown. It didn't look good.
Charles Jourdain.
Yeah. Jourdain as well was a decent fight, but he's not. I mean, Mitchell's better than Jourdain. We can comfortably say that. So
Jourdain's gone down in weight though since.
Exactly. And it was a poor performance.
But I was gonna say, how are they doing Evloev and Aljamain Sterling?
We'll get to that. That's a very interesting thing.
No, but let's talk about that. It's not even a main card fight.
That's one of the best fights at featherweight.
It's not even a main card fight.
Yeah, I don't. Sometimes they do that. Is it open in the prelims?
No,
because they do that sometimes.
It's not even open in the prelims.
Is it end in the prelims? It's just a mid-prelim fight.
It's just a mid-prelim fight.
Yeah,
that is disrespectful, bro.
They probably had some issues negotiating with Aljo and Dana's punishment.
I
told you the UFC is a dictatorship.
There was arguments Aljo was...
brass, this is what they'll do to you. They'll put you in the prelims because there's no way Aljo Evloev...
No, what they're saying
one of the best fighters at featherweight are
what they're saying this is going to be a snooze fest, is what they're saying. They are saying this is going to be a snooze fest. It's important for the featherweight division, but there's no way this is an entertaining fight. That's what the UFC are saying.
Even if it is a snooze fest, a fight that high level, a fight where the two fighters are that close in rankings, the fight where you could argue the next guy is next in line, them or Lopez. How can that be on a prelims? I don't care if it's a snooze fest. It's the
fight's on the main.
The aftermath of this fight is so big.
Bryce
compared
Mitchell
to
against
these other fighters.
Bryce Mitchell against Gracie should not be on the main card
That
above.
you could argue that should be a
should
prelim.
definitely have been swapsies for that. But
and
then,
if anything, you could say that's a snooze fest. I could easily see that being a snooze fest. Where Crone can't get him down. Bryce is trying to strike, but Crone's not engaging in the striking, and it just stalls. So you could argue that's more likely to be a snooze fest than the Evloev Aljo. I reckon that Evloev Aljo, they cancel each other out in the wrestling, which we see all the time. 2 grapplers, and it becomes a mad striking fight, and they can both crack.
A mad striking fight is wild to say.
No,
bro.
not a clinical striking match, but a striking match where they're just swinging.
What, like a Usman Colby Covington
like
one?
2 wrestlers who aren't the best technically on the feet, who can't take each other down, so they have to swing wild. You could see that happening.
Ball fest, unfortunately.
I don't think it'll be a ball fest. I think that would be a good fight.
There's no finish in that fight, bar someone gets injured. I actually think.
But the Crone, let's predict the Crone in it. The Crone Bryce.
Bryce Mitchell
decision.
Yeah.
I reckon, I'm gonna put it out there. Crone Gracie throws a mad submission. Crone Gracie submission win in the 3rd round.
Nah, not happening.
He catches him in I don't know, a mad submission we've never heard of.
Yeah, but you're forgetting Bryce Mitchell's got a twister on his resume. You know that.
But he's not getting Crone with a twister.
Yeah, but he's got the crazy.
No, he's good, but there's levels to jiu-jitsu. Crone is.
Bryce Mitchell knocked down Edson Barbosa. You know we're forgetting this. He's definitely got more hands than Gracie.
100%.
So he could get a knockout finish.
He could knock him down and Crone could throw something. Never know.
Bro, that's just wild. But going back to the Evloev Aljamain Sterling, like you said, big stakes in the featherweight division. It being on the prelims, not even the opener.
There's a lot on the line, that fight.
I got Evloev unanimous decision.
You know what? Aljo for me is one of the most disrespected. You know how you said Pantoja is disrespected? For me, Aljo is one of the most disrespected fighters. In the UFC. So just because of that, and because he's obviously going up in weight, he'll be the underdog. But I reckon Aljo will shock everyone as well. I reckon Aljo will
what do you think?
Fight decision win.
Because Ilia Topuria tweeted a couple days back, Ilia Topuria V ? So let's say someone, I don't know how, but someone gets an early finish here. Do the UFC...
They're going to give it to Volk.
They give it to Volk, but do they call Lopez and say, you're going to have to fight the winner here? Especially if it's the Evloev one, which Evloev did beat Lopez. I know the circumstances around it do you know what? I feel like if Evloev wins, he calls out Diego Lopez and says, let's do the number 1 contender fight.
But I think Lopez is such a gamer and he doesn't want to sit out.
He might take it.
He'll just fight the winner. Because the worst thing you can do is sit out whilst the champion's been active and kind of let Topuria get that 10% better again. I think Lopez, regardless of who wins, whether it's Evloev or Aljo, he'll fight the winner. And I think Lopez beats. Lopez beats the winner as well.
Really?
I think Lopez is a different kettle of fish now. He's not the same fight he was in that first fight.
He nearly finished Evloev on like a week's notice.
Exactly.
Bro.
So the thing is, for me, he beats Aljo and he will beat Evloev in a rematch. I think Lopez is the next big thing. And Topuria has to be at the top of he has to be in his best shape. He has to be serious. He has to be on it if he wants to.
There's a mutual respect between there's a mutual respect between both, to be honest. Even Topuria has always said that, Lopez is a great fighter and vice versa. So I don't know, man. I mean, we've spoken about this 100 times, but I'd much rather see Lopez against Volk. Lopez against Topuria.
I'd rather see Volk fight the winner of Evloev Aljo. Get a win on your belt, or fight Lopez, and then they fight.
Yeah.
Aljo
and give Topuria a bit of time off.
Volk can't be going into a title fight again. And his last fight was how long ago? And his last fight, he got flattened. That's not good.
Badly. February.
That is not good. 3 losses in a row if he loses against Topuria? And I don't see him beating Topuria.
I mean, Topuria looks unbeatable right now.
The problem.
Like, even if Lopez was to fight him, I'd say I'd give it. And I rate Lopez highly. That's my guy. But
a chance. Topuria's been eyeing that lightweight division anyway.
This is going to be car crash of a fight. Nate Landwehr against Choi. guaranteed finish in that fight. I feel like, or bloodbath for
that's
15
probably
minutes.
why they've put that in on the main card, because I mean they're not the biggest names, but their styles mesh well together.
Yeah.
And Dana and the UFC matchmakers, whatever, they know that this will be a mad fight, and they want to open up the main card with a wild fight. So you think, why is Aljo and why is Evloev they're fighting the prelims?
But it's the stakes at featherweight.
It's an exciting thing, isn't it? We know that's a very good fight. Even if it is a bull fest, it's still a high level fight. This is not as high level, this fight right here, but it's a wild fight. The casuals will love it. The guys in the crowd will start screaming and shouting, and it's the perfect way to open up a main card. That's probably why they've done that. That's probably the thought process. But in terms of who will win that fight,
Nate Landwehr, I think.
Yeah, I'll go with Nate as well.
Mad guy, and I feel like he's
I'll go decision.
This is an interesting one. Dominic Reyes against Anthony Smith.
Bit of a throwback.
Does Reyes continue?
Both fought for the belt at one point.
Yeah. Does Reyes continue how he looked like against who did he fight last time round? Barrio? Yeah. No.
He fought.
Who did he knock out last time round?
Jacoby,
Dustin Jacoby, yeah. Does he continue how he looked then? Is there a sense of confidence back?
To be fair, Anthony Smith, yeah, even though he's been all right. He's a veteran, but he's very durable as well. People forget he's very durable. I know Khalil stopped him.
That's going a little bit though.
But yeah, at one point he was very durable. Like he'd lose decisions and things like that. Jones didn't even finish him.
I mean, the fight
recently, you can kind of see that's kind of fading as well.
Yeah, I mean, the fight against Roman Dolidze, who's a middleweight, came up and pretty much dominated him. I feel like that was pretty much
Khalil
telltale.
Stopped him as well.
Huh?
Khalil stopped him as well.
Yeah, but he got a win in between against Petrino, which was a good win. But I feel like Reyes. I mean, as well, Anthony Smith. his record now is 38-20.
That's kind of wild.
20 losses. It's a lot.
You could probably go Reyes. It's a 3-1 fight. I reckon Reyes just jabs him a bit.
Yeah, that's a unanimous decision, Rob, though.
That's a unanimous. That's got unanimous written all over it.
Yeah. Reyes unanimous decision win for me. Vicente Luque, who was scheduled to fight Diaz.
Diaz is probably gone now. We won't see Diaz again.
Yeah, that's one of your favorite
fighters. That's my guy, man. That's my guy, Diaz.
I mean,
he was robbed of his prime by the Athletic Commission, who banned him for nonsense. Because that he was in his prime, and they've robbed him of his prime, and he just couldn't recover. But Nate Diaz in his prime, Nick was a better version of Nate, and imagine a prime Nick Diaz mixing it up with the best welterweights at that time. Your Robbie Lawlers, your Rory McDonalds, your Woodleys. Imagine a prime Nick Diaz in that mix. I think we were robbed of a very good fighter, honestly.
And even the video that came out was kind of sad. He just looked like he was out of it and whatnot. But Vicente Luque, I mean, I've always said this. Luque, there was a period in time where he was going on a hot streak, and he seemed like he was going to be a real player at welterweight. Obviously, had that brain bleed after the Jeff Neal fight, where he got knocked out in the Apex, and he's not been the same. Buckley finished him when I thought Luque would.
At one point, nobody could finish Luque. It was so durable.
Brian Barberena fight. If you haven't watched that fight ever, Vicente Luque against Brian Barberena, go watch that fight. Or Vicente Luque against Nico Price.
People forget.
Please watch those fights.
Luque was really that guy.
He was that guy. Submitted Chiesa.
He's a problem, Luque, in his prime. But when you get them kind of injuries as well,
it's hard.
People close to you, I think the people close to him should kind of put him to the side a bit, because when you get a brain bleed, it's just downwards from there. You can't recover.
Yeah, and he's fighting Gorimbo. This is a great opportunity for him. He's stepping in. He's won a few fights. I've seen him fight, but
it's your typical contender who's kind of getting that big step up in competition in terms of who he's fighting, and we'll see if he can beat that.
I feel like Luque probably pushes him back.
Yeah, we'll see if he can pass the test. It's a big test for him.
Well, he would get immediately ranked.
Yeah, if he can beat Luque,
he would become a player.
It'll be another player in that welterweight division that he's already so stacked.
Yeah, he would become a real player. So I'd probably say Luque. But I think that would be a good fight. I think Luque probably has to go back to his old ways of, let's get it on.
Yeah, but I'm trying to say, does he have the durability for that? I don't think he's as durable. He can't really fight like that. Before it was, you hit me, I don't care if you hit me, I'll hit you twice. For every punch landed, he'd hit you a few times. So, because he believed in his chin, he was confident in his durability. But that's probably gone now. It'll be interesting.
A great fight as well on the prelims is Randy Brown against Brian Battle.
You know how long Randy Brown's been around? This guy. I remember when he beat Mickey Gall. When Mickey Gall was on the rise, when Mickey Gall he beat CM Punk, and everyone thought he's the next guy, and Randy Brown fought him. Randy's been around for a while. Very tall, very rangy. It's a good fight.
I feel like he missed an opportunity because he was meant to fight Prates, and Prates, that would have been an unranked fight, and it almost feels like Prates has take that step further forward because now he's ranked, and the names that are coming out of the UFC to whom Prates could fight. I mean, Randy Brown is way over there. And then talking about Brian Battle, he's a gamer, man. The fight night in Paris where he just basically called France a dump and he was just moving mad. But he's a great fighter. Ultimate fighter, gamer, his strike output is crazy. He likes to bang. So do you know what? I'm expecting that's got fight of the night contender written all over it. I can't lie. And
they've added the Chris Weidman, Eric Anders to this.
They have added that as well. Yeah,
because that fight was meant to happen in the last pay-per-view, but unfortunately, I don't know, there was an issue with Anders.
Anders, yeah, he fell sick.
But yeah, he should be fine to go. Weidman's looking. I mean, his last fight, it was controversial.
Yeah,
all the eye
that's just one of those fights that
I hope he wins Weidman. It'll be good to see him. He's at the end of his career. Let's be honest. It'll be good to see him leave his MMA and leave the UFC on a few wins. So yeah, I hope he wins.
So you got I hope Weidman wins. Who you got? Randy Brown, Brian Battle.
I'll probably go Brian Battle.
Is it?
Yeah. I'll go Brian Battle.
That means Battle would become. His probably next fight would be for top 15 if he wins, especially convincingly. So there's a lot at stake for him. And then lastly, early prelims, Michael Chiesa's on there, Max Griffin. That's a good fight. Cody Durden against Joshua.
We'll see what kind of Chiesa shows up because there was a point where Chiesa was just submitting everyone. But yeah. he's a bit stop and start Chiesa. On his day, he's a problem Chiesa.
Chase Hooper against Clay Guida is crazy. I think it's like the youngest against the oldest.
I think Chase handles it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, is at that stage now.
Clay's record's getting a bit wild. I mean, he's very similar to
Anthony
Smith. 38 wins, 21 losses.
38 wins, 21 losses, yeah.
Wild. But he's a veteran. Fair play for him.
He's still a gamer, bro. Like,
fair play.
He's still about. We saw
Scrapper.
Jim Miller the other day he's still winning, man. Yeah. He's still getting finishes and whatnot. So
you've got to respect these guys. You look at their records. You've got to kind of look past that. Look at how long they've been around. I mean, yeah, he's seen how many champions come and go, and he's still around. Fair play to him, man.
So to recap, you got Asakura shocking the world. What is it? Shocking the world. I need to see the odds.
It is a bit of a shock because it's his first fight in the UFC. He's never fought at 125.
So who's come into the UFC and had a title shot straight away?
I think they've done it a few times. Not really with the men.
A handful of times, but it's not like
they do with the women a lot more.
Yeah. Exactly. Because there's less of a pool.
But not as.
Let me just get the odds. Asakura 2-1. 2-1 to win. So there's money to be made there. Ian Gary's 3-1. Ian Gary's 3-1 to beat Shafkat. So they've got Shafkat pretty much favorite. Gracie's 5-1. So I tell you what, if you think Gracie's getting that submission out of nowhere, there's money to be made on that. If you do, I'm
not a betting man in it, but if you're a betting man, Bron's your guy.
Nah, I don't see that. But as a whole, I'd rate this card in terms of stack meter and whatnot. It's not got the biggest names on it, definitely, but I do feel like just like we had last week, it's those sort of pay-per-views or those sort of fight nights that produce some crazy fights. And when we review it next week, I'm pretty sure we'll be like, this fight was crazy, this fight was crazy. And there might be a few shocks in there as well. So fingers crossed, we get a good UFC 310. Where is it again? It's in...
Pretty sure it's in... Where is it?
I forgot where it is, but it doesn't matter. But yeah.
I don't know where it is. Probably Vegas, probably.
Is it Vegas? Yeah. But that's the end of the episode. Thank you for tuning
Vegas,
in.
T-Mobile Arena.
T-Mobile standard. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe this video. Download if you're listening on any sort of audio platforms, and make sure to look out for the clips on the Punches and Pundits TikTok and Instagram.
Comment down below.
and
If you
comment.
disagree with us, comment below. If you agree, comment below. We
And
like
make it interactive.
We like it when people disagree.
Yeah.
We like it. And there's nothing wrong with having different opinions. Because we do see back and forth in the comments sometimes. It's all good. Listen, MMA is a sport of opinions.
Yeah.
Everybody can have their opinion. And anything can happen on any given night. So it's all good.
Peace out.